Hey guys, how y'all doing today? My name is Fanatic, and welcome back to the channel. And today for you guys is another movie review. We're starting off 2020 on a pretty strong note, I think, with the new Blue Sky animation film, which is also technically made by Walt Disney, apparently, which I don't have an issue with, but I guess that's the thing now. Spies in Disguise. Now, this did come out on Christmas Day, December 25th. I wanted to see it before the new year ended and have it in my top 10 list. If you haven't seen my top 10 best and worst movies of the year, go check that out. It's on the channel. But again, I wanted to see it, and I'm like, we didn't have time. Stuff happened. We saw Rise of Skywalker. I actually saw that twice. So my grandparents' second time, and we didn't have time. But however, now I am seeing Spies in Disguise. It is currently January 2nd, so not that far off, I guess. And yeah, let me just say that actually, it's kind of funny. I have a few little things to say before I get into this review, and they'll be fast. But the first thing is, I don't know if you've ever been to a theater with, and I said a bad movie-going experience. I'm not saying this movie was bad. On the contrary, when I get to my review, I actually really enjoyed this movie. However, I do have to say that it was a pretty bad experience. Have you ever been to a theater and you see people on their phones the whole time? Or you get little kids, 2-year-olds in diapers, and all they do is just effing scream. And then, there was a kid behind us, my mom and dad and me, and my parents kept looking back, and I'm like, I was soaked into this movie. I'm like, I like the movie, let's do it, But all these kids behind me and in front of me, wherever, they were just slurping on their Slurpee, they're making these dumb noises. They keep talking. The mom's like, shh, the whole time. It's like, Jesus Christ, I just want to enjoy the movie. You know what I mean? And I get it. I have been to a film with someone has a, I don't know how to word this without being PC or weird, but mental disorder, and that's excusable, albeit, a little bit annoying. But again, that's perfectly fine. They have an issue. It's fine. These kids are just annoying kids. And just tell me in the comments if you've ever been to a movie theater and you've had kids that scream, people on their phone. It's just a wreck. You know what I mean? You're trying to enjoy the movie and you're shh, shut up, it's weird. It's like, God, you know what I mean? Oh man. So again, the movie going experience was pretty weird. And I've had that a few times, especially with now that I'm a movie critic, so to speak. I'm a critic, I just don't get paid. On YouTube, I do think that it is kind of annoying. I'm seeing this more often. But my last thing, is that I've been facing this argument for so many years in high school with all my friends, all these different things, and they're like, that movie's for kids, or this is for kids, or you like Lego movies? That's for babies. Or, you like animated films? That's for 3-year-olds. And we all smart people like me, and hopefully you guys, we all know that 95 to 98% of animation out there is for all age groups. It is not only for little kids. In fact, I think teenagers and adults can find these animated films more interesting, and I think that's just a fact, right? We all can. And I hate when people are like, that's only for little kids, because this is testament. I've been to a few movies, I don't remember the exact names, but I remember being to certain animated films and certain live-action PG films where it's for little children, and the little children in the film do not pay attention to the film. They scream, just like in this movie with Spies in Disguise. Every single kid, basically, and there were a lot of kids in this one. It was actually very packed. A lot of kids in this theater were screaming. It wasn't, terrible, but they were talking. They were slurping on other things. They were walking up and down. They were jittery. And it not only did distract me from my viewing experience, but it also just proves my point that these movies aren't made for little kids. It may be appropriate for little kids in some scenes, but it's not directly made for them, if you get my drift. And again, this is just a fact. Everyone should know this by now. It's 2020. But going forward, like I said, this just proves my argument even more that they're not just made for little kids, because the little kids in the theater did not even enjoy any of it. I guarantee you they didn't even understand the plot. They just saw the colors and they saw the bird and they thought, the bird's making a poop joke. That was all it was. It's the teenagers and adults that can actually enjoy this film for what it is. And going into my actual review now, let me just tell you that this is a film designed for all ages. When I first saw the trailer, I said, this is really kiddie. It had me going at first. Because I'm like, this is cool. You got Will Smith as a spy. You got Tom Holland. Now, let me just say, Tom Holland is in way too many things. I'm not a Tom Holland hater. I've heard he's a jerk in real life. I don't know that for a fact. He probably is an a-hole considering how young he is and that he's freaking Spider-Man. But at the same time, he's in literally everything. He's in Onward. He's in this movie. He's in Spider-Man. He's in 1917, I think. He's in like every other effing movie in the world. And that's not a bad thing, but you need to give other people a chance. You know, remember when Chris Pratt, after the Lego movie and Guardians of the Galaxy, he's in every effing movie in the world? Yeah, again, we love Chris Pratt, we love Tom Holland, I think we all do, but we gotta get other people do this, you know? And then, of course, we also have the bad guy played by Ben Menders, I don't even know how to say it. And that's not just me being, you know, pompous and freak. I just can't pronounce his name. Mendelsohn, something like that. He is the traditional bad guy villain. You know, he was in Ready Player One. He was in Rogue One, a Star Wars story. He was in Robin Hood, which no one liked, but I loved. He was in this film, Spies in Disguise. He's basically like Hollywood's go-to villain. Just because you look at the dude, he just looks like a crook. You know what I mean? I mean, he's not like a guy, a freaking dude you see on the news. You know, they all look like retards on the news. But you get like these people, they just have like a look. You know, Chris Pratt, he looks funny, so he's a comedian. You know, Ben Mendelsohn or whatever, he looks like a bad guy, so to speak. You know what I mean? He has like that James Bond villain look, and that's why he's the perfect James Bond villain in a non-James Bond villain James Bond movie. You know what I mean? So again, it's going back to the original thing though. I did think this was a children's film because I'm like, okay, you got a cool spy, you got the guy, you got the cool bad guy, you got the comic relief with Tom Holland's Walter, and then it hit me. He turns into a gosh darn pigeon. And I'm like, why the fudge is this a good idea? I don't understand how this would work, you know what I mean? How are they going to make a pigeon movie suddenly funny for all ages, or suddenly, endearing for all ages? And surprisingly, it actually worked. I was really worried. I'm like, okay, Lance Sterling, played by Will Smith, is going to turn into a bird, and he's going to be a bird the whole friggin' movie, and it's going to suck, it's going to be dumb and weird. But to be completely honest, if you watch the trailers don't really do this movie justice. I think the plot goes far deeper than just he turns into a bird. There's some stuff about Walter and his mom and his past. He gets bullied a lot because he's weird, you know what I mean? And his mom's like, yeah, the world needs a little weird. And it's true, you know, if we're all the same, it's, you know, so all these messages that are kiddie messages, family's important, friends are important, you can be yourself, it's all true shit, you know, it's not like just made to make little kids feel happy about themselves. It really is a real thing. We are all perfect in our own ways, you know, and this movie does kind of talk about that in a really endearing way with Walter. Then you get the spy Lance Sterling, who's basically, you know, the African-American James Bond, or the African-American Galahad from Kingsman, you know, what have you. And, you know, he's a badass, you know, he's smashing windows, he's blowing up guys, he's got these cool one-liners. He's the ultimate spy, right? And then, of course, it kind of flips on him when he turns into a bird. But the whole thing with that, the bird aspect is really well handled, I think, because they foreshadow it a few times. There were some really cool little things in the background, and especially in the end of the film. But going forward, like I said, this is a fun movie that everyone can enjoy. It has a lot of action. It is it's PG, so don't bring your 3-year-olds. You know, it's the MPA says it's good for 10 and up. I saw kids in this theater, like I said, who were in diapers, who were like 3 years old. Again, they didn't understand crap, but you know, it is a more violent PG film. It's like you know how like Finding Dory was PG for like a sex joke, which didn't make sense at all, and then you have like The Incredibles and The Incredibles 2, which is PG because there's violence and mild language. This is the same thing. There's no language in this movie, but, I mean, there's English, but you know what I mean, any swear words. However, the violence in this movie is more Incredible style. You know, you actually see punches and kicks and, you know, grabbings and choking, you know, all shooting. There's guns, you know, it's a lot of, there is a lot of action. And like I said, for being a James Bond, Mission Impossible, Kingsman style film, spy film, it really works. You know, the action isn't over the top like Kingsman with the church scene. You know, of course, each movie, you know, Kingsman is for adults, James Bond is for teenagers and up, and of course this movie is for kids and up. Not just for kids, kids and up. But going forward, like I said, I really, really enjoyed the plot. Like I said, the pigeon thing goes far deeper, and I'm not going to spoil it, but it goes deeper than what you would think to do. Oh, it's just a bird for comic relief. And there is a lot of comedy in this film. And yeah, there's some comedy in the Kingsman series, The Secret Service and The Golden Circle. I have not seen any James Bond movies and any Mission Impossible movies, so I freaking really want to, but I just haven't gotten around to seeing them. And of course, Jack Bauer, I haven't seen that yet either, or that other movie. But like I said, Kingsman can be funny, and technically Kingsman is a spy espionage action comedy. This is more of a comedy, if you know what I'm saying. It's got kid jokes that kids will laugh at, but there weren't any jokes that were made for kids, if you know what I'm saying. There's no dumb barf jokes like Shrek, or, you know, Secret Life of Pets 1, or anything like that. You know, it really is it's not like, you know, the ultimate comedy film ever, but it is something that everyone laughed at. There was an adult, other than me, and my parents, of course, who were laughing their butts off. And it was really cool because I always felt weird laughing at like the Lego Ninjago movie or, you know, Cars 3 or some kind of animated film where I'm like the only adult, you know, that didn't bring a kid, and I'm laughing my ass off, and the other people are just like, you know, complete dead inside. I'm like, are we like, I know comedy is subjective, but are we not bonding here? You know what I mean? It should be funny for everyone here. And it was really great to see more adults laughing at this film, because it really is funny. I would say that not every joke lands. There's a few that not are kiddie, but just don't hit me personally, you know, in my style of comedy. But for the most part, it was really funny. I think, like I said, the action's great, the comedy's great, the animation, while not being amazing, it did what it had to, and it definitely looked really good. I think for being a Blue Sky, I don't really like much of what Blue Sky does. I didn't really enjoy Rio. I enjoyed Epic. If you saw my tribute to my Decade Through Animation tribute, if you haven't, go check it out. I really enjoyed making it, and I think you'll enjoy watching it. I have the Decade Through Film and then the Decade Through Animation. I've done self-promoting. But yeah, there's a shot from Epic where the tree guy is like running, you know, it's this really awesome one-take thing like Kingsman and Tintin. And Epic was okay, you know, it definitely wasn't epic, but it was okay. Again, my opinion. But this, I think, is the best Blue Sky film. Spies in Disguise, like I said, it's really funny, it's got a great plot, it's got really good voice acting with Will Smith and Ben Mendelsohn and Tom Holland, of course. Everyone does a great job. DJ Khaled or Khaled, whatever, that rapper guy, he's in it for some reason. He does a good job. I think he's the ears. They have like a, again, I don't want to spoil it, but something happens to Lance Sterling, the spy, and this other agency team is called in to track him down for reasons you'll find out when you watch it. But you have the eyes character, you know how they say like, oh, you're my eyes and ears, you know, you're the guy in the chair trope, you know, like Merlin from Kingsman, or Ned from Spider-Man Homecoming. Funny that also has Tom Holland in it, but it's kind of funny that you have you know, a literal character with big glasses for the eyes, and the other, or for the ears, the eyes, and then the other guy who is the ears, his actual name is Ears, I think. You know, you can't see his eyes, you know, they're just covered because he has his ears. I think it's kind of clever, kind of cool, you know, it takes a little spin. So again, the comedy in this movie is pretty good, but again, going back to the animation, is it as good as like Frozen 2 or any of the Lego movies or, you know, anything like that? No. In terms of animation, it's very cut, dry bones. But it's not bad, you know what I mean? It's just average. It's what we've all expected from something like Blue Sky or DreamWorks. You know, it's nothing on the Lego guys, and it's nothing certainly on the Disney guys, but it still looks fine, you know. I didn't really have any issues with how it looked. Again, the plot is great, the action's great, comedy's great. I really enjoyed this movie. As far as negatives, there's a scene in the beginning. This is maybe more of like a personal preference, but I think, you know when you watch like the DC animated films, like a Lego, not the Lego Batman movie, but a Lego Batman movie, or like an animated Superman film, or like Under the Red Hood, Killing Joke, any of those DC movies that are animated, you know they have like the credits in the beginning, you know, so like it starts off with something and then there's like a minute to 2 minutes of just credits, and then the movie starts, and then when the movie's over there's more credits. I hate that, and it's just a personal preference. So I'm not really going to dock it as a negative, but I thought I'd share it with you guys because this movie has that. It starts out and then they have maybe like 2 minutes of credits, and they, you know, show Will Smith, Tom Holland, Ben, whatever, you know, and there's all these different things. And I'm not calling it as a negative because it's very well made, and it looks cool, and it's stylish, and it's very spy-esque. So it looks fine. But the fact that it's there, that just personally annoys me because I want to watch the movie, you know. I don't want to see credits before the movie. You know, show the credits when the movie's over, just like every movie ever. You know, I don't want to sit here for 10 minutes during the beginning when I'd rather just watch the actual film. You know what I'm saying? Again, maybe that's just me, but I'm not going to dock it as a negative because it was well made. If it was poorly designed, then I would dock it, but again, it is well designed. There is a scene when Lance and a bird is kind of flapping his wings and he's getting shot at and the bullets are whizzing past him, and they kind of go, you know, when they're shooting the bullets, and then the bullet sounds just stop for some reason. Maybe they wanted to artistically do something, but it looked very much like Attack of the Clones, Episode 2, Star Wars, where Anakin and Padme kiss on Naboo, and it just like, the music, I talked about it in my Episode 2 review, it goes, you know, it's really beautiful music, and then it just cuts, and it was really, really, really poorly done. This is the same thing, the bullets just stop whizzing as they're talking, so we can hear them, but it's like, you should faintly hear the bullets. That's just me nitpicking as a film critic. Still, it is what it is. Again, the animation is very, you know, bare bones. not bad, but it's just average animation. Nothing's really standing out here. The villain, while intimidating, is still just the villain. You know, there is a little bit of motivation, which I won't spoil it for you, but it really is the Bond villain or the Kingsman villain. He's just there to be evil, and it works. But again, it's not like Thanos, or it definitely isn't like Supreme Leader Snoke or Palpatine or any of those guys. But still, you know, it is pretty good. Action scenes are well made. Again, I really had a good time enjoying this movie. Again, the movie-going experience was pretty much trash, but the movie itself made up for it because it was very well made. I'm going to give Spies in Disguise an A-. I really, really enjoyed it. Again, the sound cutting off one time, and then the credit scene, I'm not docking it, but it did personally affect it. Then, of course, the bad guy, not really too much motivation, but there's a little bit of something in there, just not as much as what I would have wanted. But anyway, as far as Blue Sky made, this is the best movie that they have made so far. Again, if you love Rio and you love Epic, no, you know, I respect your opinion. But me personally, I think Spies in Disguise is the best one they made. I cannot wait to buy it on Blu-ray and watch it on my own family room with my buddies or whatever, without, you know, any screaming children. Again, if you have children, not dissing your children, I'm just saying these children were monsters. Anyway, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this review. If you have seen Spies in Disguise without spoiling it, please tell me what you thought about it in the comments. And again, I think we're off to a pretty good start in 2020. Again, Spies in Disguise, very good start. So thank you, guys, and we'll see you in the next video.